Good evening, everyone. This is Henry Gamble with SimplerOptions.com, and in today's free video I wanted to look at the good, the bad, and the unknown. Essentially recapping the past free videos and just showing how all of it's played out. So for the past several weeks I've been looking at XLU. We've kind of covered it through the chop that it had from here from about 44.5 up into 46 or so. Throughout all of that time, we never really had any break in what the daily squeeze setup was suggesting might happen. So we talked about the potential of buying XLU out in January, and then we also talked about using the breakdown of the ETF to come down and look at its individual components, Dominion of which was the favorite out of the group for several different reasons. So those have played out very well, and I think it's a good example of how when you find an ETF that has a setup, if you'll drill down into its major components and dissect that, it can give you other great trades, and if nothing else, a good way to analyze that market. On last week's note, we had GMCR. So sometimes when you publish videos like this, there's just no way around the next day the company coming out and recalling a huge chunk of their coffee makers. So when I was looking at this last Monday, we had what I felt was a favorable close. We were inching up above that descending trend line. We had the squeeze that was looking for the movement up into 144. The very next day they come out with that recall, and obviously the stock takes a hit. So in those types of situations there's not much I can do. The butterfly didn't work out, but what do we do with it now? Well, so far the chart is still holding up. I have not been playing it since that drop, but what we can do is just wait for confirmation. So if you still have the position, I like it as long as that parabolic SAR doesn't shift and suggest that it may instead roll over. But what we can do is if it breaks out above that trend line, then you can establish the butterfly, and it's not nearly as bad as chasing directional calls. In a perfect world, if that can happen sometime this week, I think you'll still have a chance to put it on with the January options. If it takes more time, we may have to step out into a further dated expiration. So there's some of the good and the bad. Now for the unknown, and this is one of the more interesting sectors out there right now because of the idea of weak crude prices is going to help companies like Delta Airlines. Several of these stocks are all conforming with the exact same setup. I always look at these charts and try to suggest that beginning traders do not trade this stuff because the main reason is the fact that it's made its extensions off the weekly chart. So when you come back to a weekly time frame and you look at your major previous swings, as you've come up into the 1272 and 1618 extensions, to continue playing into the buy side is just much more aggressive for people that are acknowledging that risk and willing to have a more risky portfolio. These squeezes look very good and look like they're going to push up into our next extensions off the daily chart, and there's so many that subscribe to that. So DAL is one that I'll be tracking. LUV fits the same pattern. I like it, back up above that fire line. And then JetBLU, just one of the three that I wanted to show in tonight's video that all have the exact same pattern. So for aggressive traders, I think that may offer some opportunity in the January series, or essentially in the next 18 days. From a more conservative approach, I would try to find something that hasn't already made its move on the weekly, but over the next couple of weeks it will be very interesting to see if those weak crude prices do end up helping out the airlines and push these squeezes higher. So I hope that helps. You guys have a great new year, and I will see you at the next free video. One thing I want to make you guys aware of is the end of year class that John will be putting on Wednesday. So this is December 31st, the last day of 2014. This is the end of year class that he does most every year. These are some of the topics that he's going to be focused on, and just want to make sure you are aware of it. So there's the topics that will be covered. You should automatically be redirected to that if you'd like to sign up. Alternately, you can look for simpleroptions.com/plan and get signed up for that on Wednesday. So I hope to see you guys there.